All right, and welcome back to this week's early edition of the Hoppy Huddle podcast. We are previewing Week 8's games a little early this week because of travel arrangements.
You know, we need to explain the intro at some point to some people. Our listeners probably don't all understand all those coaches. We don't need to do that tonight. No, we can do it tonight, but
we can go through the intro. Maybe we'll do a little later in the show. I think we got some fantastic games. We got two huge matchups this weekend, just blockbuster matchups in the SEC, and some really great matchups in the Big Ten as well. Kind of across the board, a lot of like sneaky good games that like could be close, even though maybe aren't totally ranked matchups. But just a lot of games that like will make for some interesting matchups across the board this weekend.
Listen, it's prime college football season. If you can't get excited about some game this weekend, then you need to go apple picking or go get a pumpkin, okay? This is football season. You should be excited. There are games. There are plenty of games.
It's going to be, yeah.
I mean, and we get in the afternoon, we get a couple of big-time SEC matchups that we're going to break down, talk about. There's a lot of other great games on the schedule. If you're in the middle of the week, we get games Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So if you just need something to put on other than Major League Baseball playoffs or some other sitcom that nobody else watches or some NCIS program with some initials behind it, there's football on, man. You should enjoy football. Hey, it's not going to be around much longer. Soon we'll be in the middle of January, and you'll be stuck with NBA basketball. So,
yeah, exactly.
So enjoy it. All right. Well, Jake, let's break it down. Let's go. Where do you want to go? Let's get started.
All right. Well, I think we should probably start off with one of the absolutely huge matchups, and that's Georgia, Texas. Boy, this is a huge game, giant matchup. Going into the season, we were like, this is earmarked one of these games. But, we kind of thought Georgia would be the one maybe favored going into this game. But no, Texas is kind of, they're -3.5, a field goal and a hook. So I think this game, it's going to come down, in my opinion, this game will come down to, does Georgia's defense play to a level that we have not really seen them play to so far this year? They have the talent to play up to an elite level, but against a lot of teams this year, especially like the last couple of weeks against Mississippi State, against and then against before that Alabama, they've kind of just played. They've let people move the ball on them. You can't be letting Mississippi State's backup quarterback move the ball on you. I mean, Mississippi State scored 28 against it. Mississippi State is awful. They're maybe the second worst team in the Power 5. Like, you cannot be giving up that many points to them. And so that's really the concern for me. Georgia's offense has also lacked some explosiveness, but it's more of can Georgia's defense do anything to stop the absolute juggernaut that Texas has built up on the offensive side of the ball? And there is very few weaknesses on that Texas offense.
Yeah, it's let's first talk about Georgia. First of all, do we know who Kirby's going to push this week on Texas? No,
I don't know.
Before we get to all, why is there silence from the SEC, from Georgia on him shoving that player? I mean, I don't get it. Sweeping this under the rug? I mean, I don't know. Anyway, it just seems to be going away. If I'm the player, that player could have pushed him back easily from Kirby shoving him. I mean, this is just nuts. Georgia gets away with everything, but let's not focus on that. That's another time, another place.
Yeah.
So offensively for Georgia, Carson Beck's thrown for 1,800 yards, which on the surface looks pretty good. He's thrown 5 picks, though. Probably you'd like to have a fewer picks. I don't think he's found the right rhythm with these receivers and tight ends, not like he had last year with McConkey and Bowers. ETN's are leading rusher with 335 yards. That's not great. So they don't have, I think they would have expected more out of ETN this season. So offensively, they've scored some, but they're not like explosive as we think they could have been. But that's not even the side of the ball that we're probably more concerned about. Defensively, we know the talent's there on the defensive side with all those 5-star, 4-star players. They just haven't looked up to it at times. They look like sometimes when they want to play, they seem to be pretty good. But you look at the Alabama game, you look at the Mississippi State game, you look at sometimes they just don't seem to show up in the first half of games. They just have been more inconsistent than we've seen other Georgia teams. that speak to the depth they have? That's where my question mark is with this team. So then you go to Texas. Texas has been probably the most consistent team this year on both sides of the ball. And, well, I'll say absent Oregon.
There's a reason they're number one.
They're number one in the country. Yeah, absolutely. Ewers, we talked about this last night's show. He got back. He started to warm up. I think he's ready to go. If he went down, Arch Manning has seen a little bit of time. Isaiah Bond has looked good. I mean, they've got a Wingo at wide receiver, is the other freshman wide receiver that nobody's talking about. He clearly is talented. And defensively, they've been very solid. This is a 3.5-point line. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I think Texas wins this game and covers pretty easily.
Yeah, I actually kind of agree with you there. Texas, I just don't see that if what Ryan Williams did to that Georgia secondary, Texas has maybe not a single person as Ryan Williams, but in the aggregate has the receivers to replicate that sort of performance. And Quinn Ewers can deliver the ball efficiently. He can make more of the tight window stuff that Jalen Milroe could. I just don't see how the Georgia secondary can really stop the Texas offense. And because of that, I'm agreeing. I think Texas will win and cover, but I'm not betting it.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think in Quinn Ewers' career, I think we're pretty comfortable with him playing in a big game. We feel like the moment's not going to be too big for him, and he understands what's asked for him. And we know Sark is a great play caller, and I think Sark's going to create opportunities for this offense to score. And I just think a home environment, this kind of ball game, favor Texas. Now, if it was a neutral field, if we're in January, maybe we've seen a little more of Georgia. Maybe the game can be different if we see them again later down the road. But right now, I think you clearly favor Texas.
I think there's a slight possibility that Georgia's just not good, that we haven't really considered yet.
Not as good or not good?
Not good.
Well, that's
now.
I
know this is going to be a controversial take. You convinced that Georgia would finish number one in like the Big 12?
The Big 12 or the Big 10?
The Big 12. I don't think Georgia's played. Who have they played? They played Kentucky to 1 point. They gave up 1 million points to Alabama in the first half, and then they stopped Alabama in the second half. Like Georgia, they gave up 28 to Mississippi State. Now, I'm not saying this is definite because Georgia definitely has the talent, and they are extremely talented. And at any point, they could flip a switch and they could turn it on. But they have just not played like an elite football team.
The team that the Georgia team that played in the second half against Alabama, I say, is an elite team that can play with anybody in this country. But we've seen them do it for basically one half this year.
Yeah, essentially, that's it.
Yeah. So, I mean, that scares me. I mean, if they put that together for a game, that's why I think this
they could. Playoff, yeah, that's the thing. They could always put it together.
Yeah. That's why this new playoff format is probably not going to be favorable for them for a team that's inconsistent, because I'm not sure they're going to be able to do it 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree.
Could they beat Texas? Absolutely. My thing with them all year has been, I just don't think Carson Beck has looked comfortable enough with this offense. I
don't think he's looked comfortable at all.
Yeah, and the difference, remember that Bama game, he was throwing against Bama secondary. Texas secondary is better than Bama's.
Oh, yeah, much better. Yeah.
I think that's going to be the difference, and I expect Texas to win this one. I just wonder how many, the Formula One race is in Texas this weekend. How many Formula One drivers are we going to see on the sidelines Sunday night? Will we see any of them? Saturday night? Will we see any of them?
I don't know. What time is Formula One's on Sunday, so they might
be Sunday afternoon. I mean,
yeah, maybe. We'll see. I don't know what the rules are or their prep. Don't they have qualifying or something? I don't know.
The start. I'm sure we'll see Matthew McConaughey.
Whatever. Those Europeans are always up to something. But
all right. So we think, and this is a Saturday night game. So
yes, yeah. I think next we got to go to do you know what weekend it is?
It's the third Saturday in October.
It's the third Saturday in October.
We know what that is. Do you know?
Yeah.
Does our audience know what this is?
So the third Saturday in October, for the uninitiated, the casuals in the audience, is the annual rivalry. It is the third Saturday in October, but what always takes place on the third Saturday in October is the rivalry between Alabama and Tennessee. And this is a very intense rivalry. Alabama-Auburn gets the national coverage, I think, and this does as well. But Alabama-Tennessee is heated there. They despise each other. I think in this game, I lean Alabama, but the problem is both of these teams have played pretty crappy the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the battle of underperforming preseason expectations. And honestly, I think the person who wins this game or the team that wins this game will be the one that can stop the run. And that goes for Jalen Milroe running for Tennessee, and it goes for Dylan Sampson running for Alabama. Whoever can stop the run, I think ends up winning this game, because neither one of these teams has showed consistent, short and medium range passing, and Tennessee's been very inconsistent in the long range passing as well. So Ryan Williams, of course, only 17. He certainly will be a factor, but Tennessee's defense has actually been pretty good. The defense hasn't really been the problem for Tennessee. The problem has been the passing game. Yeah. So, yeah. Can Tennessee throw against that Bama secondary? Yeah, probably. But will they be able to will Nico be able to make those throws? I don't know. He hasn't been really consistently doing that all year, but maybe the holes will open up with this weaker secondary.
Yeah, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we thought this was going to be a blockbuster matchup, and the luster's come off just a little bit here in the last few weeks. Tennessee's perspective, I think I said this last night's show, pretty high expectations for Tennessee, and then all of a sudden Nico just quite hasn't gotten to the level I thought he was going to get to. That could just be, that could be my expectations. I thought he would progress further. And I think you said maybe it's the offensive line, maybe it's the receivers, could be a combination of all three of those. I think first of all, the loser of this game is in deep trouble for the playoffs and might end up finishing 6th or 7th in the SEC. So this game is really it's important for both teams. So the winner of this is going to get a lot of confidence, is going to feel like they're really still alive, not only for maybe the SEC's championship game still, but certainly for the playoff. For Alabama, boy, Kalen DeBoer, the best way to get yourself off any of the message board talk is to beat Tennessee, because you're right. This is a big
They'll
rivalry.
love you again.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think the running game, I think the running game is going to be critical for both teams. But then I go, okay, if those things are neutral, if they equalize themselves a little bit, what quarterback do I have a little bit more confidence in? And I probably have a little more confidence in the passing game in Jalen Milroe right now than I do in Tennessee, because I do think Ryan Williams gives them a legitimate threat that Jalen can go to at pretty much any point. And I think Jalen has played enough big games that, he's seen the defenses like Georgia throw at him. He's seen seen the Michigan defense from last year. I think, Nico has not seen that. We saw what happened with Florida the other night. And Florida doesn't have a great defense, and Nico was taking sacks. Nico was under pressure. I'm not sure Nico, in this kind of environment, I'm not sure he's going to step up or be able to step up. I still believe in him long term. This may not be the right moment. That's why I definitely lean towards Bama in this. Will it be close? Probably be my guess. Knoxville, Neyland Stadium is a tough place to play, so it would not surprise me if Tennessee comes out and all of a sudden they discover Hendon Hooker 2.0 and they win this game by 15. It would not surprise me a blowout on either side, to be honest with you. One of these teams could show up and surprise us, but I just lean Alabama in this one.
There's also, I think the most likely path for Tennessee to win is they just kind of pull a Vanderbilt and just run. They're able to get the running game going, run Dylan Sampson up Bama's throat, chew clock, hold possession time, and they just kind of strangle. I think that's another likely scenario that could happen.
Alabama's offense off the field. Yeah. I think so. But I think I would go with Alabama. And I think, let me see, is that one of the picks? Yeah, I'm actually taking Alabama minus the 2.5. That is one of my 8 picks this week. So
okay, yeah.
So,
all right. And
you want to jump out of the head to some of the other conference games?
Yeah, let's go to the Big Ten to a really interesting matchup in Indiana. Nebraska is traveling to Indiana. Indiana's undefeated, ranked Indiana.
6-0 Indiana Hoosiers.
6-0 Indiana Hoosiers. What are they up to now? Are they
I think they're 16th or 14th or
They're
something.
60th AP poll now.
Yeah, 16th in AP. That's right.
And is it time to talk to your children about Indiana Hoosiers in the bracket? Not in March, in January, because Indiana might be a playoff team this year. And that is a statement I don't know if I ever thought I would be mentioning.
Yeah. It's very likely. This is going to be a tough test for them. You remember several weeks ago early on, I said, circle your calendars for this date because I thought Nebraska would come in undefeated. Nebraska had a little slip up there against Illinois, but this was a matchup I saw coming a little ways out. And yeah, I mean, this is crazy. This work has played really well for Indiana. Kurt Sonetti's brought all those JMU Dukes over to Indiana. They played well. They've been scoring a lot of points. This has been an exciting ball club. He's gotten the fan base excited. If I'm having to guess here, they're the favorite at home. And you see the sweatshirt I wore on purpose today.
I see the sweatshirt.
I'm going to take Nebraska. Give me the 6.5 points. That's what the line is up to now. Give me the 6.5. I think the fairy tale season isn't over, but it just gets derailed slightly today. Give me Matt Rule. I'll take his experience, and I'll take Dylan Raiola. I think they're ready to send Indiana back to reality this weekend.
I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you because give me the Hoosiers.
That's what I want to hear.
Give me Curtis Rourke. Let me just read you a stat real quick. Did you know that Indiana has averaged 515 yards of offense per game? Number 6 rated offense in the country. They have 7.6 yards per play, which is fantastic. Indiana, 190 QB rating for Curtis Rourke. He's been tearing it up. He's been absolutely electric. They score like crazy. And Indiana's defense is sneakily not bad. They've actually held some teams in check. Now, they're a little bit lighter of a schedule, but I actually think Nebraska's strength is up front on the defense for sure.
Yeah.
But so that kind of gives me a little thought that if Indiana just doesn't really try and establish the run game that a lot of coaches do, if they just come out and start slinging it, which their offense is built to do, by the way. They sling the ball a lot. If Curtis Rourke can kind of avoid pressure and keep himself from getting sacked, Indiana can move the ball against Nebraska's secondary. Their secondary is I think they have one good corner, and everybody else is just pretty mediocre.
Yeah, the secondary,
Yeah, so their secondary, you can drive against them. I mean, so I do kind of see a scenario where this is kind of a shootout, and I trust Indiana's offense. They keep going. I think Raiola may make a couple freshman mistakes, as he's done in some different games here so far. I'm still high. I like Nebraska long-term, high on Raiola long-term, but give me Indiana minus the points, minus 6.5. I'm betting it.
So the crazy thing is, and I'm rooting for Indiana to some extent. I mean, I want Nebraska to get the 6.5, just so I look good on this podcast.
Yeah.
But if Indiana wins, I won't cry any tears. But let's say they do win. There's a really viable path here to 11-1. Okay, because we know they're going to play at Ohio State. They don't have the horses to play with Ohio State. I'm sorry, but everyone else in their schedule, they get Michigan at home, and they can play with this year's Michigan team, especially at home. Everyone else is winnable. 11-1 Indiana is going to make the playoffs. I'm going to tell you against that schedule. You can mark my words. So, I mean, we're going to have to get Indiana T-shirts for this podcast if that happens. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, and they'll make the playoffs and lose in the first round, and then
it's okay.
And Coach Sig will be introduced as the next coach of your Florida Gators.
See if Lane can beat him to the job first. Lane.
Yeah. Well, Lane might win a playoff game if he makes
Lane may get that job earlier than Cook and Sig. That's the issue.
That's true. If Lane, did you see? I don't know if you saw. Did you see the video of Jackson Dart with his hoodie down in the press conference? He was going like, "We got to win the rest of our games. There's only one option left, and that's to win all the games."
I did not.
All the comments were like, "Keep him away from Padawans." He literally looked like Darth Vader in episode 3, just like, we must win all the games. Like he's like trying to have his Tebow moment, but like, we'll see, buddy.
No, you shouldn't have lost to. You get one slip up. You shouldn't have
Don't
lost
lose to Kentucky.
That was your first mistake.
Yeah.
Quick before, well, listen, playing this week, but we're talking to Lane here real quick. Did you hear Josh Pate on his podcast last night? And anybody?
No, I didn't catch it.
Okay, so anybody who's a college football fan, if you're not listening to Josh Pate's college football podcast, college football show, I mean, that is an absolute must listen. I know Jake and I are loyal listeners. It's the best, one of the best ones out there. We're not going to say
I've got my
Steve,
chalice of supremacy right over there.
Yeah, Jake has a chalice of supremacy. If you listen to his podcast, you know what that means. Josh made the comment that he's hearing already that with Lane with 2 losses, you're going to start hearing talk about the Florida job opening up early and Lane getting that job early. I'm telling you, man. And of course, Josh is wired in, the whole scene. But he didn't want to say he was starting anything. But I'm telling you, as soon as Napier gets fired,
he has crazy level sources. So if he says something, it's already done, in my opinion.
The issue was that if Ole Miss was making the playoff, that was going to get everything hung up.
Yeah.
But Ole Miss's schedule's so tough; they still play Texas and Georgia. You drop another game. I mean,
they have to win both, which I mean,
they're going to have to run the table at this point. Almost.
Yeah.
A 3-loss SEC team could get in. I don't know.
They would need some chaos other places, but
we may still get the playoffs. It's still too early to assume a 3-loss SEC team's going to get in the playoffs. We're still we could talk about that's for a November podcast that we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
All right, let's stay in the Big Ten. Let's look at another game that I want to talk about in the Big Ten. Let's go to Michigan and Illinois.
All right, Michigan, Illinois. Yeah. So my thoughts here are Michigan. I don't know if you've noticed this. I'm wearing a Michigan shirt, by the way, but that's not because I'm very high on Michigan. It's just because that was the shirt that I had right there. I've kind of noticed that Michigan, their defense has been good, but not great. Not as great as we thought we think they should be. And so everybody hypes up their defense, and they're really talented, but they kind of just. I also read a couple articles that are saying Michigan's defensive coaching kind of took a drop off
when Mentor left.
Yeah, and so I wonder. They've got really talented pieces, but I kind of not sure if their defense is as good as we're making it out to be. And Illinois, man, I'm telling you, I like Illinois. I'm picking Illinois to win outright.
Yeah, I'm not picking this game. Not one of my 8 picks, but I'm with you. I think Illinois is going to win. First of all, it's at Illinois. I like the home field advantage. I don't think Michigan plays very well. Well, this team hasn't played very well away from the Big House. 2, you're right. Their defense is 57th out of 134 division FBS teams. It's not very good this year. And then you've got their leading who's their leading passer? It's is it Davis? Yeah.
No, I don't even know. Davis Warren doesn't even play anymore. And Jack Tuttle looked better, but then it takes out the quarterback running game.
Yeah. I mean, this team is staring down they're going to be lucky to be 7-5. And so, and Illinois is a team that has been exciting to watch. Altmaier really can throw that ball around. Had a little defensive lapse the other day in the second half against Purdue. But other than that, they've been pretty consistent on the defensive end. I think Illinois wins this game, and I think they want to beat Michigan too. This is a big this is a big game for the Illini. This is something everybody's got this team circled on their calendar. Michigan, this is their shot.
Yeah, especially because the way Michigan ran through last year and all that. So, and
you remember 2 years ago, Illinois took a team up to the Big House when one of Harbaugh's better teams and took them right to the end to a field goal. So I think
Brett Bielema is a good coach.
He is a good coach. I think he's found his niche there. I think Illinois wins this game.
I agree there. I'm betting Illinois plus 3.5. I like Illinois. Luke Altmaier's played really well. He's took the huge jump from last year. He's been a really consistent, good distributor of the ball. They have a good quarterback, and Michigan doesn't. And in comparable teams, give me that team with the better quarterback.
I mean, Michigan's defense is mid. Their offense is terrible. Why should they even be in the top 25 is what I want to know. But that's
they shouldn't. But that's a different story.
Yeah.
So, I give me Illinois in that one. Where do you want to go to next?
Let's go to a game that I think is intriguing. Let's go to the Fighting Irish, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish at the Rambling Wreck, Georgia Tech.
Okay. What do you think about that? Let me grab it real quick.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up some information here I have on my iPad. So here's what I like about Georgia Tech. Haynes King has played pretty well. 8 touchdowns.
He has, yeah.
He's only turned the ball over once, and we talked about this early on in the season. if Haynes King is not turning the ball over, Georgia Tech is a pretty productive offense. Haynes King is thrown for about 1,500 yards. They've run the ball Jamal Haynes has run the ball pretty well. And then you compare them to Notre Dame. Well, I just don't understand how Notre Dame keeps scoring points because you have a quarterback that really doesn't throw the ball real well.
No.
I mean, they do get turnovers and they convert those and run in the game, but I don't see those happening in this game. I think Georgia Tech's a better disciplined team and are not going to give them. They're not Louisville. They're not going to just hand the ball to Notre Dame for easy scores.
Well, Haynes King might.
Could. I don't think it's going to
defense.
happen here. I think because this game's in Georgia, this game is in Atlanta, right? Hold on. Or is this a tricky game where it's not?
No, it's in Atlanta.
Are we certain of that? Okay.
It might be one of those where it's like in Mercedes-Benz, but it says
okay.
at Georgia Tech. It's in Atlanta.
It's in Atlanta. Okay.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech's an 11.5-point underdog. I'm going to take Georgia Tech. Give me those 11.5 points. Now, I don't know if they're going to win, but I'll definitely like 11.5 points. I think they could even win outright.
Yeah.
I'm not a believer.
I don't know.
I'm not a believer in Notre Dame's team. I think you really don't have a functional quarterback that's throwing the ball. Their defense is obviously pretty good. I mean, their defense is outstanding.
Yeah. So I think I kind of agree, sort of. I agree that Notre Dame's defense is fantastic, and I agree that Haynes King has played a lot better this year. I'm just not sure. I'm not confident enough in Haynes King to not turn the ball over against that good defense to bet them. And I don't know. I don't see Georgia Tech seems like the tough. They seem like Notre Dame, but like a level down, kind of, because they have a running quarterback that's so with the pass. They have a salty defense, and they play well in the line of scrimmage. And that just sounds like Notre Dame to me, but they're with less talent. So if they play the same style of game, I don't know that Georgia Tech can come out on top.
Probably. Here's the other reason I just picked this game sort of in a sneaky way, because everybody's already talking about that Notre Dame Army game the following week, and Army being undefeated. And this
is it Army or Navy?
Well, both are undefeated, but I think they're playing Army the next week.
Okay.
And you know, finally a great Army team being undefeated, coming in to face the Fighting Irish. And I just wonder sometimes those are the games where Notre Dame, you're looking ahead, and these games sort of sneak up on Notre Dame, and they lose to like a Northern Illinois, or they lose to a Marshall. And I just feel like this has the kind of game where Notre Dame's not fully focused. So I just had this gut feeling that maybe Georgia Tech can come up and I like the culture that they're building at Georgia Tech under.
I do too. I'm a fan of Brent Key. I like what he's doing there.
So I may be going out of limb. This may cost me, but I'm gonna go with Georgia Tech, and I just like 11.5 points too.
Okay. I can see that. I want to go to, this is not going to be the most exciting game, but I'm betting it because I believe that is not enough points. Rutgers -4.5 versus UCLA is at Rutgers. UCLA, not that great. Rutgers has played pretty well so far. I don't know why it's only 4.5.
Well, because I can tell you why. I mean, did you see what Wisconsin did to Rutgers last week?
Well, that's why. I mean, yeah. But I think that's kind of an overreaction to have it only be 4.5.
Yeah.
Rutgers is still a decent team. And I think UCLA has a horrible offense. UCLA's defense is actually pretty decent, but there's no way UCLA replicates what happened with Wisconsin because they just don't have the offense for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think Shano will let them have 2 bad weeks in a row like this. And it's,
yeah. So give me Rutgers -4.5.
Yeah, I may end up having to eat some crow in Wisconsin. I really sold them before the beginning of the year, and they're slowly picking up some momentum. I mean, they've played a lot better in the last few weeks, and I'm interested to see how they finish out the season.
Yeah.
Well, let's go. I'm going to go back to the ACC. You know, America's second favorite football conference, because the Big 12 is obviously America's favorite football conference.
Yes, obviously.
Let's talk about the Miami Hurricanes. They were off last week. They go to the 6th. They're now up to 6th in the polls. They go to the Louisville Cardinals. Louisville beat Virginia last week, which was a tough test for them. They actually had to pull that one out in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Louisville it was undefeated up until a few weeks ago, suffered a couple of losses. Now it's fallen out of the polls. Believe it or not, if you look at the power index numbers, this is Miami's toughest game remaining on their schedule. And Jake, you and I were talking about this a little bit before we went on air. I mean, Miami wins this game.
Yeah. Let me read off the schedule, the rest of the games they got. They got at Louisville this week, and then they got FSU at home. FSU, been awful. They should easily win that game. And they got Duke at home, at Georgia Tech, Wake, and at Syracuse. And Georgia Tech and Syracuse are on the road. They've both been kind of spicy teams, but they're not really anywhere near the same caliber as Miami, and they shouldn't, or even Louisville. So, yeah,
I mean,
they've kind of got it.
Louisville's the only one that has a little firepower that could give Miami some difficulty if Miami's not playing their A game.
Yeah.
So I expect the line on this was, let me see. The line was ridiculously small, 4.5. I don't understand this line. Okay. Why is this line so bad, so low?
Because Miami keeps playing close games against worse teams.
Yeah, probably so.
That's why.
Yeah. Well, I think I'll take Miami minus 4.5 at Louisville. I think you'll see them. I expect to have a really good performance coming off a bye week. And then I think Miami set themselves up now to just get on a roll. I expect them to be 12-0, facing either Clemson or Pitt in the ACC championship. This is their last big hurdle, I think, for the season.
Yeah, I agree there. Speaking of Clemson.
Oh, yeah, hey.
It is Virginia going to Clemson. And I am very sad to say that I will be picking Clemson minus 21.5.
Is that the first half spread?
No, that's the whole game spread. Clemson has just been a dog. They've covered basically every week except one since the Georgia game. They've been destroying teams. They look like a machine. Virginia doesn't have the horses to stop them on defense.
Good teams win, great teams cover. And
good teams win, great teams cover. That's what they say. I don't think Virginia can block Clemson's defense. I don't think Virginia can defend Clemson's offense. I think this is just going to be kind of the sad beginning of the death of Virginia football season because they've got a rough stretch coming up, and this is the first game in that.
Yeah, it was. I saw some comments by Dabo Swinney. I don't know if it was either yesterday or this morning where he was talking about, him and Tony Elliott, Virginia's coach, are good friends. Yeah. He said it was going to be, it was going to be real weird to see him on the sidelines. I mean, those guys obviously spend a lot of time together, have a good relationship. Make no mistake about it, though. They'll be friends before the game, friends after the game. But Clemson's got a beating on the Hoos this weekend. And
and they may not win by 40, but they definitely think they win by 21.5.
Yeah, this game's over by halftime. And I don't think Virginia has anywhere near the capability. One side note with Clemson here, who's starting to get a little bit of momentum in the Heisman race? It's Cade Klubnik. He's not Ashton Genty, but he's put up 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 100 yards, 6% completion.
I haven't checked those odds in a while.
I mean, he's starting to get a little talk. Now, again, Travis Hunter gets hurt. Jalen Milroe's falling off. Klubnik's, could be getting to the point where, he keeps playing like this. He may get a New York City invite.
That's interesting. I had not thought about that. Yeah, interesting.
We wrote this team off for dead after week 1. And now they not only won games, but they've won them impressively. I mean, he seems like Klubnik maybe actually has this offense under control. I don't know. I'm excited to watch Clemson.
Well, I snapped up a Clemson title ticket after week 1 for $2, and that's looking pretty good now. They want me to cash out for 16.
There you go. I don't think our favorite ACC team to bet against isn't playing this week, so we'll have to take.
No, North Carolina is not playing this week. Will fade North Carolina principle is still in effect. Can they win against the bye week? It's unclear. It'll be a close game, even though bye week is a bad team.
Yeah.
But I'm sure Mac Brown will blow it towards the end of the game.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to, let's go back to the SEC. I want to talk about a tougher place to play that teams go in there and don't know what to do, and that's Arkansas.
Okay.
LSU coming off a big victory against Ole Miss.
Yeah.
They're going into Arkansas, and I think that could be a very challenging thing for them. Arkansas likes to make those games physical, likes to beat you up at the line of scrimmage. they want to make LSU, they want to make it an ugly game. And, are you going to get the Garrett Nussmeier you got for the first 2.5, 3 quarters? Or are you going to get the Garrett Nussmeier of the fourth quarter and overtime?
It's a good question. I think a more important question is, can LSU's defense stop what's about to be just a punch in the face from Arkansas's offense?
Yeah.
I don't know. Their defense has been pretty shaky, although they did play well against Ole Miss. You do have to give them credit. Our LSU's defense did look much improved against Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Ole Miss was missing their top receiver. There's something to that, maybe. But, yeah, I would not surprise me if Arkansas came out with the win. Teams going into Fayetteville, it's a tough place to play. It's always a struggle to get out, and I don't know if LSU is consistent enough to win against a team that matches up stylistically pretty well with them.
I mean, to me, it all comes down to how Taylon Green plays. If you can get Green could come out and play the game he played against Tennessee before he got injured. If he's giving you a good game, I think LSU's secondary is pretty weak. I think they got a shot. If Green's throwing interceptions, then I think they're done. They're cooked.
Yeah, you can't give Nussmeier extra possessions.
No, because he has.
Because he will unlock it. He will unlock it at some point during the game.
Yeah, and it's about ball control. Again, LSU's one of those offenses. The more touches they get, they're gonna score points. They have enough players between Lacey and and Nussmeier. I mean, they're gonna get people.
Their O-line's good.
Yeah. It's just a matter of can you control it? Can you win the time possession game? Keep them off the field. Can you force a few turnovers? I mean, Nussmeier has thrown 6 interceptions this year. Can you get a pick from him? Can you get a fumble from the offense? Win that, control the ball game 35, 40 minutes, you're in this game.
Yeah. Yep. I agree with you on that one. I'm not betting it because that's kind of I don't know what's going to happen game.
Yeah.
But, yeah, let's see here. I want to go to a Big 12 game that I'm betting. It is Arizona State at Cincinnati. And Arizona State is +3 at Cincinnati. And I think that getting Arizona State plus points in this matchup is a pretty good value. I think Cincinnati played well against UCF last week, but I think UCF is really, really bad. So I don't know how much that actually says about Cincinnati. I think Arizona State and Cam Scatterbo are a really good team. They're a contender in the Big 12. They win this, they're going to be 6-1?
6-1, yeah.
Yeah, and Big 12 title contenders. So, look out for Arizona State. They're sneaky, really good. And who's the freshman quarterback?
Well, it's Sam Levitt. Is he a freshman or sophomore?
Sophomore. He's a sophomore quarterback, Sam Levitt. Sorry. Yeah. He's played really well.
He has.
They have a good receiver, Jordan Tyson, who's catching a ton of balls. Kenny Dillingham's got that program kind of humming.
They were picked,
I like ASU.
They were picked near the bottom or at the bottom of the Big 12, close to it. I think that's a pretty good pick. I don't believe in Cincinnati. I think Arizona State's playing much better football at this point of the season. They keep winning. They're going to make some games interesting, down the stretch. I mean, all of a sudden that Arizona State game could mean something down at the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Besides the Territorial Cup. Yes.
A lot of interesting matchups in the Big 12. IU has an important game this weekend. They have a game Friday night. They have a home game. BYU sneakily undefeated. State comes to town. They're 9.5-point favorites. You see where Mike Gundy, I guess, has a black eye because something happened to his cow ran into him, or his cow hit him
by a cow or something.
Yeah,
that's the most Oklahoma State thing to ever happen. By the way,
it is. Oklahoma State has just fallen off maybe the cow ought to kick a few players because this team is this team is done. I think BYU seems to be on a roll right now. I don't expect that to stop Friday night. I think they roll over Oklahoma State. Give me BYU minus the 9.
I agree with it. I'm not betting it, but just because funky things can happen in Stillwater sometimes. Or no, it's at BYU, isn't it?
It's at BYU. It's not Stillwater. That's why.
Never mind then. Yeah, no. How many points is that?
9.5. That's why I was like,
yeah. You know what? I'm gonna agree with you on that.
If that was in
I'm gonna add
Stillwater, I'm
that to
with
the
you. I
list.
think crazy
I
things
thought it
happen in
was at.
Stillwater.
I thought it was in Stillwater, and I was like,
No.
weird stuff could happen there. But no, okay, yeah, no. Give me
Um,
BYU minus 9.5. I agree.
Now, the other Big 12 matchup on Saturday, which I think is intriguing, is K-State goes to West Virginia.
Yeah, West Virginia, tough place to play.
Yeah.
K-State coming off that crazy win against Colorado. They had injuries all over the place. I don't know how healthy some of their players are. I think Avery Johnson's good, but he had that it's just I get kind of weird vibes from K-State after that game, and I'm not really confident. I don't know. West Virginia played decently well against Iowa State. They didn't really competitive, but they play about as well as you can be expected to. I don't
K-State
know.
feels
I don't.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
They just feel like one of those teams that is going to win. They're not always going to win by 3 touchdowns, but they're just going to find ways to win.
Yeah.
I mean, it's never going to be pretty, but they're going to run the ball. I mean, I think West Virginia could give them a battle, but are they worse than Iowa State? Iowa State won that game pretty easily in Morgantown.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're a little worse than Iowa State, but
yeah, but look at what K-State did in Colorado, and Colorado had a much better offense than West Virginia. It's a 2.5-point line, and I think you're just basically giving. I mean, that's a field goal. I think K-State wins that game.
Okay. All right.
I don't think. I mean, now if you tell me Avery Johnson's out completely, I might rethink that. But I think he's scheduled to play.
Played well. They played well with the backup too, so it's not like
So
yeah.
And you got the other Big 12 matchup, the State. Now we're starting to get into some of the games where they think they should win pretty easily. They've got UCF on the road. That's a big 13.5-point line, but I think they cover that pretty easily.
I mean, they should kill UCF.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Absolutely.
UCF's defense not good. UCF's offense not good.
What other games do you want to hit here? We've covered a lot of games. We talked about your team or one of our other teams or a couple.
We can just touch on. So Baylor is traveling to Lubbock to play the Texas Shootout, aka the Butt Bowl, the BUTT Bowl. This is kind of a pressure spot for Dave Aranda. Texas Tech, not doing awful. They're 5-1 as well. They've kind of, they sneaked by Abilene Christian at the beginning of the season, but Texas Tech's not actually out of the Big 12 race either. Although they kind of haven't played as many of those tougher teams yet. Yeah, so this could be important for Texas Tech for the Big 12 race. Baylor, if Dave Aranda can win this, he can maybe start building some momentum and to try and keep his job by the end of the year. We'll see. I'm kind of just dead as a Baylor fan at this point. I'm numb, so I don't really have high expectations, especially going into Lubbock. Lubbock is a tough place to play. So.
And Texas Tech has played pretty well this season. This is going to be a tough game.
Yeah.
Baylor hasn't played poorly the last few games. They had the bad luck in Colorado.
Could win, but
the BYU game, they had behind way too early. They had 7 or 8 starters suspended, and they still almost won that game. Just some crazy stuff's happened to cause some losses. This should be an interesting game, but it's a tough matchup. Let's talk about a couple of our favorite SEC schools, which aren't ranked. Kentucky and Florida. This is, the clock is ticking, on Billy Napier in Florida. You heard a little of my rant last night. I'm not going to rant again tonight. Florida loses to Kentucky. It'll be the 4th straight loss. No Florida team has lost 4 straight to Kentucky since, I think, the early 50s. And the last coach of Kentucky then was who? Can you tell me?
Is that Bear Bryant?
That was Bear Bryant, yes.
It was Bear Bryant.
It was Bear Bryant. And Billy Napier, those 4 of those losses, 3 of those losses would be under Napier. I think if he loses, that may be it. We may be having an emergency pod sometime Sunday or some announcements. We'll see. This is Kentucky, though. Kentucky's played horrible the last few weeks. I mean, they're in danger, too. So both these teams are looking at not making a bowl. So this game matters to both teams.
Yeah.
Even though to pick. I do think, for those who aren't following the world today like Jake and I do, Graham Mertz did tear his ACL. He is out for the year, so will no longer be sharing quarterback duties. DJ Lagway does have that full-time QB1 position now. I think that's probably actually good for the Gators. They're going to have consistency at quarterback. Trell Johnson, I think, is still going to be a game-time decision. It will be good. He got hurt in the game against Tennessee, but looks like he'll be okay. With Lagway in there, he is super athletic. He can make some throws that Mertz just can't. So it wouldn't surprise me if all of a sudden you see a little bit of pickup in that offense. Seeing while I think Kentucky's a slight favorite, I think it wouldn't surprise me if Florida won, and this is not a good Florida team. And then the rough stretch gets for Florida, where they play Texas, Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss. I mean, it just gets brutal.
Yeah.
But Florida fans may have at least one nice reprieve, maybe winning Saturday.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Kentucky's got a good D line and a kind of a bad offense, so you never know what's going to happen.
Maybe this could just be one shining moment of fun for the Florida Gator fans in the 2024.
It might be. It might also just be more of the same.
Yeah.
So,
and then our other favorite SEC school, where we know someone that goes to, is the old Auburn Tigers coming off the bye week. They go to the biggest frauds in this side of Bernie Madoff, and that's the Missouri Tigers, still ranked. For some reason, they are still ranked 21. Now, just because you're ranked doesn't mean beating Auburn makes you continue to stay ranked. I have no idea what to make of this game.
I have no clue. Oh, I could see either team winning.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
Yeah, Auburn has not played bad. If you look at Auburn's numbers offensively, they haven't been terrible. If you just take out the turnovers, if they stop turning the ball over, they actually can move the ball. But if I would actually be a good basketball player, if I could just put the ball in the net every time. I mean,
yeah, that's part of the game.
Yeah, stop turning the ball over, Auburn. You can win games. So I think if Auburn doesn't turn the ball over, they could play with Missouri. But we'll see. Peyton Thorne seems to want to throw the ball to the other team an awful lot. So I think that'll be the difference in this game again. And we'll see what happens. I could also see a scenario where they turn it over and they can't stop Missouri's defensive line can't stop Missouri, and in which case they could get blown out pretty easily on the road.
Yep. All right. I think we've kind of covered enough.
We've covered
most of the good games this weekend.
Yeah. I feel like we've watched some. We've been watching these at home here. I think it's time the Hoppy Huddle needs to get back, not on this week, but I feel like the Hoppy Huddle needs to take another road show here soon. What do you think?
We might be going on the road here soon in a week or so.
Hoppy Huddle has to go out and see their fans. We've got to go out into the masses.
We have to connect with our fan base.
That's right. So maybe not this week, but soon. I feel a trip coming. So.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and follow on all the socials. And good night.
Good night.